She played an amazing piece on the piano. The Billionaire's challenge revealed a hidden genius. Sarah wiped the counter clean for the umpteenth time, her gaze drifting to the window, streaked with raindrops that mirrored the tumult within her. The little diner buzzed with chatter as her fellow waitresses gossiped about Mark, the town's former golden boy turned tech millionaire. She forced a smile as she refilled a customer's coffee, masking the tightness in her chest. Deep down, she knew the gala would offer her a chance to perform on the grand piano, a dazzling opportunity wrapped in the fear of failure. Should she even dare to dream again? Tremors ran through her as she remembered her family's expectations, their sacrifices echoed in her mind, a constant reminder as heavy as the plates she served. A stable job, Sarah. That's what you need, her mother's voice rang, demanding her loyalty to practicality rather than her neglected talent. But hidden beneath the layers of obligation was a flicker of rebellion. Could she really take the step to enter this competition, facing a town that had pigeonholed her since childhood? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. She could almost hear the whispers slithering through the diner, the judgment that draped around her like a shroud. A waitress in a music contest, they'd scoff, fingers tracing their stained coffee cups as if she were an imposter. Mark's presence was daunting, amplified by the townsfolk's unspoken bias. Could she stand knee-deep in the expectations laid upon her and still showcase the mastery Mr. Clark had nurtured in her since childhood? Sitting alone in a small, dim room post-shift, fingers hesitating over the keys felt like a betrayal. Each note she coaxed from the piano stirred memories: her father's proud smile during her concerts, the sense of belonging that came with every melody she played. But as those snapshots faded, insecurity washed over her. Could she really release herself from the shackles of her current life? Tension building with each passing day. The weight of obligation loomed larger with every practice session. Could a girl from humble beginnings truly compete against a sea of polished performers? She pressed on, the scars of doubt pricking her resolve. Each trial was a wedge between loyalty and her heart's desires. As the gala approached, panic fluttered beneath her skin like a trapped bird. On stage, with eyes glued to her and Mark's casual demeanor weighing her down, she'd either break free or shatter. The emotion swirled within, leading to the ultimate confrontation. Would she sacrifice her family's pride to finally embrace her untamed talent? In that moment of uncertainty, an unexpected connection with Mark sent waves of confusion through her. Beneath his wealth lay a complexity she never expected. As she realized that their aspirations and struggles were interlaced, Sarah stood at a precipice, torn between loyalty and her dreams. The anticipation was a powerful current threatening to pull her under. What revelation awaited her, and would she have the courage to navigate it when the spotlight finally beckoned? As the days wove closer to the gala, sleep slipped through Sarah's fingers, replaced by restless nights of practice. The familiar sheen of the piano keys had never felt so foreign, each note a reminder of the risks she faced. She switched from one piece to another, hoping to find the courage buried beneath layers of self-doubt, but each melody was marred by uncertainty. Would the audience hear beauty or flaws in her performance? Mark's presence loomed larger, shaping every inch of her preparation. She started scrutinizing his demeanor whenever he entered the diner, noticing how he interacted with others. A juxtaposition brewed in her mind, the relaxed confidence he exuded against the unseen turmoil roiling within her. It was clear he had not only emerged from the same town but also faced pressures of his own. Did he feel like an outsider too? A connection rooted in shared struggles began to blossom, illuminating a path Sarah hadn't anticipated. Showing up is half the battle, Mark had told her one afternoon, leaning against the counter while waiting for his mocha latte. The way he spoke, his tone laced with authenticity, struck a chord. Sarah pondered his words during her moments of solitude, fighting a tidal wave of fear. She could either remain hidden in the shadows, content with the life expected of her, or she could seize this opportunity to embrace vulnerability. Her hands trembled as she played, each composition demanding a piece of her spirit. She recalled her piano teacher's lessons: music mirrors emotions, let your heart lead. The challenge lay not in perfect execution but in letting go of assurance, inviting her rawness to pour forth. For the first time, she resolved to play not just to prove herself but to express the parts of her that had long been silenced. In the midst of her emotional preparations, moments of confrontation arose within her own mind. What if they laugh? What if I fail? These thoughts clawed at her as she practiced in the early morning silence, the world outside still and unaware of her fight. But she learned to recognize this internal dialogue not as threats but as signs of her desire to grow. Each doubt transformed into a voice urging her to strive not for perfection but for authenticity. The day of the gala broke with an eerie calm, casting an ominous shadow over her anticipation. Dressed in the gown she had dared to buy after some well-spent tips, she stood before the mirror, searching for the courage reflected in her eyes. Did she have what it took? It was a delicate balance between her wish for validation and the dripping ink of legacy clinging to her. Would stepping onto that stage awaken her spirit or bury it deeper in the weight of her family's expectations? As she maneuvered through anxious thoughts, a single realization emerged: this was her one chance to reclaim her identity, to align her path with her passion. The echo of the piano keys haunted her, whispering promises of an untamed brilliance just beyond her reach. Now, standing backstage in a dimmed room, her heart racing alongside the crescendo of voices, Sarah felt the stage beckoning. It was no longer about the competition, nor the townspeople's expectations. It was about her voice, her narrative, and the spark of rebellion she'd barely acknowledged until now. The next moment would be pivotal. With every deep breath, she could feel the weight of dreams and fears gravitating toward a singular event. Suddenly, Mark stepped into view, his presence both reassuring and unnerving. He offered a lopsided smile, as if sensing her turmoil. "You ready?" he asked, the warmth of his gaze providing an unexpected solace. With a final deep breath, Sarah took a step forward. The time had come to face the music her true self awaited. But what would pouring her heart out ultimately cost her? Stepping onto the stage felt surreal, as if a stage light powered by raw emotion had engulfed her in warmth and dread all at once. The applause washed over her, a mix of encouragement and expectation, making her heart race even faster. She stood at the piano, gripping the cold, polished edges as if they were the very lifeline she had been searching for. The audience didn't know the internal storm brewing inside her. They saw the poised musician, not the trembling girl who doubted the weight of her worth. Taking a deep breath, she settled her fingers onto the keys, allowing the first notes to spill into the air. The melody unraveled slowly, each strike digging deep into the undercurrents of her anxiety. But as the piece unfolded, something shifted within her. The notes were no longer just sounds, they represented her fears, her determination, the essence of Sarah, vulnerable yet resilient. As she played, the weight of pure judgment faded, replaced with a quiet determination. The music surged into crescendos. It wasn't perfect, but that imperfection became an integral part of her personal expression. There were moments where her fingers faltered, where a note rang out slightly off-key, but she pressed through, digging deeper into the turmoil and triumph that were uniquely hers. Mark's presence loomed in her thoughts, his words echoed, "Showing up is half the battle." She realized now that showing up had been more than just physical presence. It was a commitment to authenticity, embracing both light and shadow within her performance. As she leaned into the music, she began to rediscover lost pieces of herself. This was not about proving herself to someone else, it was about honoring her journey, her love for music, and the desire to finally confront the ghosts of insecurity. When the piece came to an end, applause erupted, a thunderous validation that sent shockwaves through her being. Heart still racing, she lifted her hands from the keys, a rush of mixed emotions coursing through her. Achievement? Yes. Fear? Certainly. But above all, a spark of liberation blazed brightly within her. Offstage, the applause faded, but the reverberations of her truth rang clear. She had stepped out of her shadow, and while the echoes of vulnerability still lingered, they were tinged with something else, a burgeoning confidence. Each step away from the piano felt purposeful. Curiously, a sense of empowerment wrapped around her like the strings of a melody waiting to be plucked. When Mark approached, the look in his eyes spoke volumes. "You were incredible," he said, genuine excitement lighting up his features. For the first time, she could see her reflection in others' eyes, not just an idea of who she was supposed to be but who she truly was, finally beginning to emerge. The moment felt transcendent, a bridge from the past to what could be, yet, as elation coursed through her, something nagged at the back of her mind. A challenge remained. What would she do next? The worries of the expectant crowd and the norms of her upbringing harrowed beneath her surface. Had this moment truly marked a turning point, or was it just an elaborate flash of courage hiding other uncertainties? Her heart raced again, not from fear, but from the thrill of what lay ahead. Deep down, Sarah knew, this single performance was just the beginning. The real challenge would stem from living out that authenticity beyond the stage, confronting the expectations that still loomed back home. As she meandered towards the exit, her thoughts racing, Sarah realized that the next step wouldn't just be about music, it would be about redefining her identity outside of these walls. What would it look like to truly embrace her newfound boldness? Would it weave seamlessly into her everyday life, or would new obstacles crop up, demanding yet more of her resolve? With every pulse of her heart, she felt the tide of change rising. The stage was just the beginning, but the true performance lay ahead of her. What awaited as she ventured into this new, uncharted territory? As she stepped into the crisp evening air, Sarah was enveloped by the sounds of the city. Cars zipped past, life continued unabated, yet she felt oddly separate from it all. The thrill of her performance still coursed through her veins, but beneath that excitement lingered an unsettling question: who was she now outside the confines of the stage? Each step took her further from the piano, and with every stride, another layer of uncertainty unfurled. The thrill had been intoxicating, yet it felt undeniably fragile, like a delicate melody that could shatter with the wrong note. What did it mean to be seen? To be praised? More importantly, could she sustain this newfound image when she returned to the routine she'd left behind? The twilight washed the streets in varying shades of darkness, pushing her to confront a deeper truth. The exhilaration of performance had filled her with determination, but it was suddenly replaced by a haunting question: how could she apply this courage beyond the stage? Back at home, the familiar walls almost mocked her. They whispered tales of the timid girl she had been, the one who had cowered from any expectation. She closed the door, shutting out the world but simultaneously inviting doubt to creep in. Would her family recognize her subtle evolution? Or would they expect her to revert to the version of herself they knew? Determined not to fall back, she roamed into the kitchen, where old habits awaited her. As she scoured the cabinets for something to ground her, a splatter of musical notes danced in her mind, mingling with lingering fear. Her fingers itched for the piano once more. But practicing alone felt like rehearsing for a performance that would never happen again. A moment trapped in unexpressed potential. Weeks rolled by as she navigated her daily life, a monotonous routine of school, chores, and fleeting moments of daylight. Each morning, she looked in the mirror, searching for the resilient woman who had soared above anxiety. Yet, each glance felt like an intrusion, revealing the same anxious girl who had doubted her talent just hours before she ever touched the keys. In her solitude came whispers of a dusty piano at the local cafe, a place she had only driven past. But what lay beneath that curiosity turned out to be a challenge. They hosted open mic nights. Perhaps performing there could forge a bridge between her newfound boldness and the elements of her life she recognized. But was she ready to face an open stage where her identity, her authenticity might once again be questioned or scrutinized? As nervous excitement thrummed through her, Sarah made a choice. She envisioned herself standing behind that worn-out microphone, sharing songs that were parts of her, the pieces of herself that awaited expression. She pictured the crowd, the fear, the thrill. Would she crack under pressure? Or would the echoes of her initial performance resound within her, sending the fragility of her worth into untold heights? The following morning, she set a resolution in motion. She would sign up for that open mic night. It was time not just to face an audience but to solidify the narrative she desired to communicate. Yet as she sat at her desk, a notification pinged on her phone, a challenge to submit her recordings to an exclusive online competition. Sarah's heart raced. It was a chance to showcase not just her performance but her voice in a broader arena. But that reveal also carried the risk of exposure. Her doubts slithered back in, a reminder of the stakes involved. Before she could second-guess herself, her fingers danced over the keyboard, signing up for both opportunities. The first challenge was laid out before her. A rush of determination jolted her forward. She was ready to unveil the full spectrum of her identity. With the deadline looming, her excitement raced toward a culmination, and as she looked in the mirror once more, she could almost see her reflection shifting. Was that a glimmer of the artist she had longed to become? Stepping away from the desk, she felt the air thicken with expectation. Each decision now stacked upon the last. Sarah knew she was stirring something powerful within herself. Whatever lay ahead would demand more than courage, it would demand her very soul. But as she prepared to face this new endeavor, another thought crept in, a challenge she had yet to acknowledge. How would she handle her family's expectations should they weigh her down? The bubbling anticipation suddenly mixed with anxiety. The stage was set for something transformative, but she sensed the shadows of doubt still lurking. Could she emerge from this as an authentic artist? The true test was yet to come. The sun crept into Sarah's room, casting soft light over the cluttered surface of her desk. A day before the open mic night, she stirred awake, feeling its pulsating energy thrust her into conscious thought. She quickly rolled over to glance at her phone, heart sinking when she saw the notifications. Countless reminders loomed. The competition deadline was only days away, and the impending performance was an ever-ticking clock. In the pit of her stomach, fear stirred, but beneath it lay an ember of excitement and anticipation of unveiling pieces of herself she had yet to fully explore. After school, Sarah abandoned the usual rhythm of her routine and headed toward the cafe, a social heartbeat she had previously avoided. The old piano stood prominently in the corner, surrounded by a mosaic of patrons who donned anonymity among coffee cups and conversation. It was both intimidating and inviting, a herald of endless possibilities. She felt the weight of her decision to perform swell within her, a ball of tension that seemed both suffocating and exhilarating. As she watched others take their turn, she couldn't help but analyze each performance with a blend of admiration and apprehension. They poured their hearts out, every note, every word a departure from the safety she had clung to. A sea of vulnerability enveloped her. Even now, the prospect of spilling everything she had waiting inside felt like a perilous leap into darkness. Sitting alone in a booth, she opened her notebook to rehearse her songs, but instead of notes, her fingers hesitated over blank pages. Instead, her mind raced through what she should say to the audience, how she would hold them captive even as her heart shadowed her confidence. Suddenly, the stage lights flickered, whispers turned to hushed murmurs. Next up, Sarah. The barista's call echoed through the cafe, and without thinking, she stood. The air charged around her, a mix of rustling papers and muffled laughter, spinning together until she felt suspended in time. Each step to the microphone felt monumental. With shaky hands, she adjusted it, and as the audience's eyes turned toward her, the looming doubts invaded. Would they see her flaws? Would she crumble under the spotlight? A flood of negative what-ifs echoed in her mind. But the spontaneity of her choice surged forward, a light brightening the shadows encroaching on her spirit. Taking a deep breath, she began playing, memories of each note cascading from her fingertips like a waterfall of self-discovery. The first chord unlocked something deeper, something that demanded to be shared. Her nervousness transformed into a rhythm that surged through her, and thoughts of judgment slipped away, leaving only her passion. Each note layered with emotion painted a clearer picture of who she was becoming, the artist and the individual she craved to be. As she finished, applause erupted, reverberating through her. But between those sounds of approval, she felt a different vibration, her own sense of victory, a reclamation of self. It wasn't just the reception she craved now, it was the realization that she could face herself, that she could deliver her truth without the fear of fragmenting beneath that weight. Back at home later that night, she sat in her room, her fingers tingling with the residual effects of performing. Yet, despite the triumph, shadows still loomed, questions about her family's reception, and their deeply held expectations that could easily eclipse her newfound confidence. Could she balance her passion with the weight that home might impose? The more she thought, the more questions emerged, fraying the smile she wore. She picked up her phone and scrolled anxiously, diving into the online competition details she'd signed up for. The stakes felt heavier now, and a single thought persisted: the fear of rejection had begun to morph into the desire for acceptance not just from others, but also from herself. As she rehearsed in the dark, she envisioned the recordings being judged, of her vulnerability being assessed by strangers. Each recording, an exploration of who she was, a journey and an audience, inviting the challenge of authenticity. But with realization came another uninvited thought: if she stepped out, truly embraced her identity, could she withstand the pressure that would inevitably come from both strangers and family alike? The stage was set. Not just for performance, but for a battle against her deepest fears and doubts. And within that fierce, exhilarating uncertainty, she knew the true challenge was only beginning. Would she rise to meet it? Or would she falter back into the shadows of her past? The morning after her performance, Sarah struggled to reconcile the adrenaline from the night before with the mundane tasks that awaited her. The sun pierced through her window again, revealing the familiar chaos of her desk, a stark contrast to the clarity she'd felt on stage. She glanced at her guitar, still resting by the bed, the strings whispering possibilities she yearned to explore. As she poured herself a cup of coffee, her thoughts swung between pride and anxiety. The applause was intoxicating, a resonance still echoing in her mind, but the weight of her family's expectations loomed over her like storm clouds. She quickly reminded herself that performance was a personal victory, not merely a tool for validation. Yet, the question remained: would her family understand this part of her? Did they even want to? With each sip, Sarah wrestled with this anxiety while scrolling through social media. Her heart raced when she saw several videos from the open mic night, including her own. Watching herself perform ignited a flicker of doubt. She noticed the slight shakiness in her hands, the initial struggle to engage the audience fully. What if her imperfections overshadowed the moments of brilliance? That afternoon, as her friends celebrated her success in a group chat, Sarah hesitated to respond. Words of encouragement flooded her screen, yet self-doubt strategically planted seeds of reluctance. Instead of engaging in the conversation, she retreated to her room, seeking solace in music. Sitting on her bed, her guitar cradled in her arms, she revisited the lyrics she'd written over the months. This time, however, she didn't just rehearse the chords, she explored each line for the truth within. She felt the weight of every syllable, articulating her struggle to find acceptance not just in the eyes of others but within her own heart. The music turned cathartic, guiding her through the labyrinth of her doubts. After an hour, she felt lighter. Perhaps her art could be the bridge connecting her dreams with the expectations she faced. Just as she was gathering her thoughts, a notification chimed. It was a reminder about the upcoming competition. The next big stage waited for her. Then, without thinking, her fingers began to type a message to her friends, accepting their invitation for coffee that evening. It was time to embrace her connections, to share not only her fears but also the excitement of venturing further into her passions. Over coffee, she found herself sharing the experience of the open mic night, excitement simmering beneath her words. One friend suggested they form a small group to practice together, pushing one another to showcase their talents. The idea sent a ripple of exhilaration through her. Could this be the network to support her as she navigated the complexities of her art and personal expectations? That night, Sarah lay sleepless, her mind racing with possibilities. She envisioned the competition and the unique challenges of exposing herself on a bigger stage, not just battling her insecurities but confronting the judgments that haunted her. Would she be enough? As dawn broke, she made a plan, compiling a list of specific goals leading up to the competition. Each item represented a step towards self-acceptance and growth: writing a new piece, connecting with her peers, recording her rehearsals, and most crucially, confronting the inevitable family discussions. Could she articulate her passion without feeling like a disappointment? But just as she drafted her first intention, a gnawing feeling resurfaced. Was she strong enough to sustain this momentum against the swirling expectations she sensed from home? The pressure felt like an anchor pulling her back. That evening, Sarah picked up her phone again, distressing thoughts swirling within her. She saw another post about the competition, emphasizing the exposure it could bring. Yet, at that moment, a question rang louder than the rest: what if she won? What would that world feel like, and could she even step into it fully? The stakes felt staggeringly high. Each decision weighed heavily as she prepared to unveil her identity not just to an audience, but to the very people who had shaped her life thus far. Would her truth resonate with them, or would it widen the chasm she feared? As Sarah stared at the screen, poised to press submit on her registration, she understood that the journey ahead was about more than just performance. It would be a confrontation of the very essence of who she was and what she dared to become. And in that moment, she knew the performance of her life was not just on stage, it was every day leading up to it, a battle for her own narrative. With the weight of this realization, she hesitated, fingers trembling over the final button to submit her entry, questioning how far she could truly go. The moment of truth loomed ahead, a crossroads where her dreams collided with her fears. What lay ahead in that crucial decision made her heart race with anticipation and dread. Would she take the leap? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Sarah wrestled with her decision. Her heart thumped loudly, each pulse resonating with the weight of her ambitions. The competition registration sat idly on her screen, a digital invitation to plunge deeper into the unknown. She inhaled sharply, allowing the fresh air to fill her lungs and steady her racing thoughts. Vulnerability terrified her, yet she craved the thrill of truth and authenticity. In the quiet sanctuary of her room, she embraced the guitar resting beside her, the familiar texture grounding her. Strumming a few chords, she closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. Music had always been her ally, a canvas where she could paint her fears and joys. With each note, she felt the flutter of determination igniting within her. Could it be that she was only one decision away from changing her life? At that moment, Sarah decided not just to submit her entry but to compose a new song for the competition, one that would encapsulate her journey of self-acceptance, a reflection of her truth. This song would be different. It was to be a manifesto, an assertion of her worth that would echo beyond the stage. Her fingers danced over the strings, carving out a melody that felt both soothing and invigorating. Each note carried her forward, allowing her to envision a future where she stepped into the spotlight unfettered by fear. The passion felt exhilarating, but doubt began to creep back in, whispering insidiously beneath the surface. Her family's expectations loomed large in her mind. They had always envisioned stability, a conventional path illuminated by traditional successes. Was she ready to shatter that illusion and risk disappointment or pride in the eyes of those who had always supported her? This internal conflict sent her reeling. She nodded to herself, defining the moment as crucial. Sarah plunged into her goals with newfound fervor. She meticulously sketched out a rehearsal schedule, allocating time daily to refine her song, seeking feedback from her friends in the practice group. Each session felt charged with a supportive energy that stoked her confidence. The realization dawned that vulnerability sometimes invited strength, that sharing her uncertainties did not equate to weakness but rather to authenticity. Yet with each passing day, as she embraced her art, a lingering awareness turned her excitement into apprehension. The conversations with her family were unavoidable, and she envisioned them not as adversaries but as potentially open minds waiting to understand her dreams. Sarah found herself drafting dialogues in her head, crafted affirmations meant to bridge the gap between her desires and their expectations. Would her words resonate, or would they remain silent in the echoes of misunderstanding? On a rainy afternoon, she sat with her guitar, ready to confront that dialogue. As she strummed the opening chords of her new song, her thoughts crystallized. This was her moment to redefine her narrative. Then, a sudden knock at the door disrupted her concentration. It was her younger brother, sporting a knowing smile that hinted at his curiosity about her new project. "Are you writing a song?" he asked innocently. Caught off guard, Sarah paused, contemplating how to share her ambitions with him. But in that instant, she felt the pressure crumble gently. Perhaps vulnerability could foster curiosity. I am, she replied, a spark igniting in her voice. Want to hear it? As he nodded with enthusiasm, uncertainty faded. She began to play, each strum ushering in a wave of empowerment. If her brother could embrace her art, maybe others could too. With every chord, the barrier of doubt began to dissipate. That in this moment of connection, Sarah realized her truth had a voice, and maybe, just maybe, it would resonate beyond her existence. The song unfolded beautifully, and amidst the melody, she envisioned standing on that bigger stage, bathed in light. Would she continue this path, armed with honesty and creativity? As the last note lingered in the air, she felt the future shift closer with a palpable energy. The decision loomed larger still: her family, her song, the competition. Would she emerge triumphant not just in performance but in fulfillment of her own identity? And deep within, the heart of change pulsated with resolve, hinting at what lay on the horizon. She would have to confront her family's understanding head-on. Thus, her own journey curled into a tight ball of anticipation. Would this new song and the support of her brother help unravel the tightrope she walked between acceptance and defiance? Each decision spun further into the web of her life. The stage wasn't merely an ending, it was the hope of a beginning, the moment she felt most naked, a challenge awaiting her resolve. The days melted into a blur of melody and intention as Sarah committed herself wholly to songwriting. Her fingers glided over the guitar strings, producing notes that resonated deep within her spirit. Beneath the surface of her determination, however, apprehension simmered. The looming conversations with her family haunted her thoughts, swirling like autumn leaves kicked up by a wayward breeze. She knew their expectations could become a tempest, threatening her burgeoning sense of agency. In the weeks that followed, Sarah immersed herself in every free moment, attending late-night jam sessions, where the flickering candlelight illuminated her path. Each strum built her confidence, but doubts kept sneaking in. What if her family dismissed her ambitions as mere whims? She found herself juggling errant thoughts of who she was against the weight of who they expected her to be. One evening, while rehearsing, she stumbled upon an unexpected chord progression. It felt like a secret door opening in her mind. With this new rhythm, she began weaving verses that embraced her complexity, the aching longing for acceptance intertwined with her fierce desire for freedom. The song transformed into an anthem of sorts, a battle cry she was ready to present not just to the world but to her family. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah could feel herself standing on the precipice of transformation. The anticipation intensified with each completed lyric, laying bare every layer of her vulnerability. In one heated session, her emotions erupted and she let the words spill from her mouth like pent-up confessions, lines about liberation, fear, and the soaring hope of pursuing her dreams against the backdrop of familial expectations. It was cathartic, but even amidst the thrill, shadows lingered. One afternoon, Sarah found herself gazing out the window, the sun glaring through the rain-streaked glass, reflecting her inner turmoil. At that moment, she knew it was time to face her family, not as a child seeking approval but as a burgeoning artist wielding her own aspirations. But how would she convey the depths of her passion without igniting a storm? That evening, while sharing dinner with her family, Sarah sensed a charged atmosphere, thick with unasked questions and veiled judgments. Her parents chatted about their day, their words heavy with concerns of practicality, career stability. She realized this was the moment she had to take a breath, embrace the tension, and step into her truth. As the conversation flowed, she strategically introduced the topic of her song, casually at first. "I've been working on something that means a lot to me," she said, her voice steady despite betraying trepidation. Her mother glanced up, eyebrows arched in curiosity, while her father continued to eat, clearly unamused. Then she decided to drop her guard further, revealing her motivations. "It's about my journey, about pursuing what truly makes me feel alive," she spoke, hoping to connect. Their responses came back as tentative nods, but uncertainty hung in the air, swirling like smoke. She felt her heart race as her father set down his fork, direct yet soft in his concern. "Are you sure, Sarah? You know music is a risky path," she interjected, urgency igniting in her voice. This wasn't mere rebellion, it was her truth fighting to break free from the constraints of their beliefs. But I want to try. I need to try. Silence fell heavily while she braced herself for their judgment, the moment suspended in the air like a taut string on her guitar. She could feel her ambition clashing with their ideals, every moment stretching taut with potential disappointment or unexpected acceptance. Her brother's earlier curiosity had emboldened her. Still, the realization flickered painfully. Would her commitment to sincerity cost her love? Just then, her mother spoke quietly but firmly, "Sarah, we want you to be happy, but what if it doesn't work out?" The question hung, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet. In that instant, she understood she had not only to prove herself to them, she had to prove it to herself. She declared with a steadiness she didn't fully feel, "I have to pursue this. If I don't, I'll never know." And beneath those words lay a promise not just to her family but one to herself. The song began to resonate in her mind again, reminding her of the strength she was mastering. As tensions held the room captive, Sarah sensed that acceptance was part of a larger battle she would face, internally and externally. How would her family respond? Would they embrace her vision, or would doubt weave barriers that separated them? The answers felt just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet shrouded in uncertainty. Sarah's breath quickened, and she realized she wasn't just facing her parents, she was facing the odds of her destiny. The conversation loomed like a monumental cliff, daring her to take the step forward into authenticity. Would she emerge fortified by their support, or would she be forced to define her path beneath a cloud of skepticism? As the last bite of dinner lingered, she gathered her thoughts, knowing the next move she made could unravel the tapestry of understanding they had woven over the years or redefine it entirely. And in that moment, the stage of life awaited her ensemble piece, one composed of heart and courage. How far was she willing to go to nurture her creativity without sacrificing her roots? Would the power of her song indeed act as an olive branch, bridging the gap between dreams and family? The echo of Sarah's declaration reverberated in the silence that followed, the weight of her ambition palpable in the air. She could feel her family's eyes on her, measuring her resolve against their skepticism. It was a critical juncture, a moment that dictated the echoes of their relationship and her artistic journey. Would she find the courage to embrace her path, no matter the consequences? In the days that followed, Sarah engaged in a delicate balancing act between her creative pursuits and her family's expectations. She resolved to pour every ounce of her spirit into her songwriting, a fervent shield against her mounting fears. Each night, she donned her headphones and let the world fade away as she crafted melodies that flowed like river currents. But alongside the thrill of creation simmered a persistent anxiety. Her family had taken her news with a mix of concerns and silence, which only heightened her inner turmoil. She began documenting her thoughts each morning in a journal, proof that her dreams were not mere whims but solidifying intentions. "I am a songwriter," she would write, the words soaking into the pages like ink merging with water. With every affirmation, she felt stronger, yet a small voice nicked at her confidence, reminding her of her family's doubts. Their support was vital, she realized. Without it, her courage could falter. Around this time, she discovered a local open mic night at a quaint cafe that served the best espresso in town. The idea filled her with a mix of excitement and dread. Would this be the stage to showcase her song, the culmination of her struggle, or a platform for public failure? On a whim, she signed up to perform. This marked a pivot point. Either she would gain assurance, or she would confront the fear she'd long avoided. As the evening of her performance approached, rehearsals transformed into rituals. She would strum her guitar until her fingers hurt, poring over every lyric, scrutinizing them as one might examine the tiniest details of a painting. Performing in front of strangers felt like the most authentic expression of her growth, yet a residual tension about her family's thoughts gnawed at her mind. On the night of the open mic, the cafe buzzed with energy, laughter flowing between tables. Sarah took a moment to breathe, feeling an electric worry pulse through her veins. Stepping onto the small, crooked stage, she was greeted by curious faces. She initially felt exposed, yet the moment she strummed the first chord, something shifted within her. The world outside her music faded away, and she surrendered to the moment. Her voice cracked slightly as she began, but it resonated with conviction, the lyrics spilling forth confessions of longing, hope, and the raw, unfiltered truth of her desires. The notes enveloped the room like a soft blanket, and for the first time, she felt a surge of empowerment rather than fear. As the song built to its crescendo, she found herself smiling, lost in the music's embrace. When she finished, a wave of applause washed over her, accompanied by cheers from strangers she'd never met. A previous doubt shattered, she realized she could move others, could convey her essence. Yet, her heart still yearned for her family's acknowledgement, a truth that remained unspoken. Weeks passed, and she continued to perform, gradually honing her craft and gathering praise. Every success sprinkled confidence into the cocktail of her emotions, yet the silent spaces between her family and her passion gnawed at her relentlessly. She had sent video links of her performances home, but responses were lukewarm at best, polite, yet hesitant. Feeling a chasm widening, she sensed she needed a different approach, one that blended her music with the unvoiced expectations she felt from them. On the night of another family dinner, surrounded by her parents and brother, she felt an unfamiliar flutter of anticipation tinged with fear. The air crackled with the shared history she had almost rebelled against. This time, she wouldn't only introduce them to her song, she would share its heartbeat. "Can I play something for you?" Sarah asked, her heartbeat drumming louder than before. Her fingers trembled, both eager and anxious. Her family nodded, intrigued but wary. As she began playing, she poured herself into the music once more, allowing the essence of her journey to transpire through each chord. Would they see her for the artist she was, not simply the daughter they envisioned? With every lyric, she felt herself drawing closer to a bridge they could cross together. The moment felt pivotal, a crescendo. She knew that the path ahead required more than mere bravery, it necessitated a commitment to unite her family's hopes with her own aspirations. As she played, Sarah glimpsed the potential outcome of this fragile union, the realization perhaps that in sharing her song, she could foster understanding. But would her family embrace this new truth about her, or would they retreat into familiar reservations? The notes faded, leaving room for responses she desperately awaited. The silence of anticipation stretched endlessly before her, filled with the unmistakable tremor of possibility. Would this be the moment her family finally grasped her world? Or would she once again find herself navigating the turbulence of misunderstanding? The collision of dreams and origins loomed ahead, and she wondered, was she ready to face what lay on the other side of this musical revelation? The day after her family's dinner, Sarah awoke with an invigorating determination, a newfound clarity pulsating in her veins. Her performance had shattered the silence between her aspirations and her family's expectations, igniting a spark of recognition that felt transformative. She found herself humming the melody from her song, a testament to the unfolding chapters of her life. Each note played echoed within her, a reminder of the journey she had undertaken, one filled with vulnerability, fear, and ultimately, courage. As the sun filtered through her window, she acknowledged a shift in her identity. No longer confined to the shadows of doubt, Sarah was emerging as an artist, ready to wield her voice. With a vigorous heart, she dove into her songwriting once more, weaving the emotions and experiences into lyrics that felt like breathing. Each chord she struck revitalized a deep sense of purpose within her. The crossroads she had faced with her family now felt like fertile ground for new growth. This was the moment for the grand unveiling, her music not only bridging her truth but inviting her loved ones into her world, illuminating their path towards mutual understanding. Invigorated by this thought, she decided to write a heartfelt letter to her family, one that would articulate the complexities of her journey, backed by the strength of authenticity. She poured out everything, her fears, her dreams, and her resolve to forge a new path without abandoning the love she had for them. As she laid the pen down, Sarah felt a profound sense of relief, an easing of the burden that had crescendoed within her for so long. It was difficult to frame her thoughts, but the cathartic process solidified her intentions. She arranged for a family gathering, excited yet anxious. This space would become the stage for her vulnerability to shine. She envisioned her family reading the letter, hearing the depths of her passion for music, and nurturing a conversation that could pave the way for acceptance. The night of the family gathering arrived, with her heart racing as she prepared the atmosphere. Soft, ambient music played in the background, setting the stage for dialogue and connection. When everyone gathered around the dinner table, she took a deep breath and handed them her letter, watching intently as they began to read. The silence that enveloped the room felt heavy, pregnant with anticipation, as her family processed each word. After what felt like a lifetime, her father looked up, his expression softened, the lines of concern beginning to blur as he took a moment to comprehend her truth. "Well, Sarah, thank you for sharing this," he finally said, his voice steady but warm. "It is clear how much music means to you, and I appreciate your honesty." Her mother's eyes glistened with understanding. She leaned in closer, thoughtfully tracing the edges of the letter. "I never realized how serious you are about this," she said quietly. "I just wanted you to be safe, sweetheart. But if this brings you joy, then that's what really matters." In that moment, Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude. Every bit of her journey had led to this pivotal dialogue, and she felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. It was not just about her music, it was about defining who she was, unashamedly, and inviting those she loved to take the journey with her. The conversation flourished throughout dinner, the family exploring the depths of her dreams and her newfound ambitions. They talked about her performances at the cafe, the challenges ahead, and their hope for her happiness. Instead of doubt, there was a whisper of support that cradled her spirit with gentle reassurance. As the night drew to a close, she felt empowered not just by the warmth both of her family's acceptance and their excitement for her future but also by her willingness to face her fears head-on. She left dinner filled with renewed strength, aware that her artistry was not only her own but a shared journey with those who loved her. In the following weeks, Sarah's life flourished. Armed with her family's support, she dove into an exhilarating routine of practice and creative exploration. She visited the cafe more frequently, each performance marking not only her growth as an artist but also embodying her journey towards authenticity. In embracing her music, she discovered a richer connection with her family, weaving the threads of their shared experiences into her compositions. Additionally, Sarah took the leap to enter the online competition that first seemed daunting, now igniting her with a GPS guiding her future direction. As she recorded her submissions, blending the new songs she had written for her family into her setlist, she felt not just alive, but empowered, reinforced by the solid foundation of solidarity that had been established. In the culmination of her experiences, Sarah began to witness her transformation, a young woman no longer shrouded in doubt, but a vibrant artist stepping into her spotlight without reservation. Each performance and each moment of self-expression not only resonated within her but also echoed through her family, creating a rhythm of understanding between them. On the day of the competition, standing backstage with her guitar in hand, Sarah felt a sense of calm wash over her. She grinned as she looked around. She realized she had transformed every doubt into a vital note of her melody. No longer defined by fear, she was armed with the power of her truth, eager to share her story with the world. The moment she stepped out into the spotlight, she was ready to embrace both the applause and the vulnerability of revealing herself. Every note she played transcended her fears and emerged as a testament to the journey of self-acceptance and authentic representation of the artist she had become. As she played, the music weaved within the hearts of the audience, uniting strangers, connecting souls through her shared story. The applause and cheers that followed were not merely a reflection of her talent but an affirmation of what she had achieved, to break free from the expectations that had once held her back and to finally embrace the essence of who she had always wanted to become. Looking out into the crowd, Sarah felt an intense sense of completion. She had conquered her fears and blossomed under the weight of authenticity, each note serving as a triumphant proclamation of self-acceptance and fulfillment. This was not just the end of one chapter, it was the celebratory beginning of many new melodies yet to come. Now, as she walked off stage, the warmth of applause still resonating in her heart, she realized this victory was not only about the music but a step towards living her truth unapologetically. True fulfillment had always resided within, waiting for the moment she would let it soar. You need to subscribe now to follow Sarah's journey further and witness the power of self-discovery and artistry. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help us spread these powerful stories. Comment below with your reactions and thoughts on Sarah's transformative journey. Your insights mean the world to us, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Let us keep the conversation alive.